The cameras were already off, the stage lights had gone dark, and the fans thought they knew everything about BTS. But according to whispers that used to circulate quietly behind backstage doors, practice rooms, luxury hotels, and waiting lounges, there was one topic staff members almost never dared to discuss openly. Not scandals, not dating rumors, but which BTS member secretly made female staff lose their composure the most. Sounds unbelievable, right? Because on camera, BTS always looked professional, respectful, and untouchable. Yet former insiders, makeup artists, stylists, coordinators, and even security teams once hinted that certain members had an aura so dangerous it changed the atmosphere of an entire room instantly. Some staff suddenly volunteered for extra schedules. Some became unusually nervous during fittings. Others couldn't even maintain eye contact when specific members walked in wearing simple hoodies and tired faces after rehearsals. The craziest part? Fans usually guessed the wrong member, so today, Mr. Lee is finally opening the hidden stories nobody expected to hear. Which BTS member quietly became the center of attention among female staff without ever trying? Who had the charm that worked harder backstage than it did on stage? And why did one staff member reportedly say, "Photos can never explain what he feels like in real life"? Prepare yourself, because this ranking is far more shocking than people imagined. Number 7. Jin, the worldwide handsome trap. Everybody already knew Jin was called worldwide handsome, but what most people never realized was that backstage staff members reportedly reacted to him very differently compared to fans online. On camera, Jin often looked funny, loud, chaotic, and unserious. He loved making dad jokes, ruining emotional moments with random comments, and acting like the playful older brother of the group. That image became so strong that many people forgot how overwhelming his real-life visuals actually were. According to several behind-the-scenes stories that circulated quietly among entertainment staff over the years, Jin's appearance in person was described as dangerously deceptive. Why deceptive? Because cameras apparently softened his presence. In real life, people said his proportions, skin texture, shoulder width, and facial balance looked unreal to the point where first-time staff members sometimes froze during introductions. One former event worker once hinted that female coordinators who had worked with dozens of celebrities still became awkward around Jin during close contact situations like microphone adjustments, wardrobe fittings, or makeup touch-ups. And strangely, Jin himself rarely seemed aware of the effect he had. That became the biggest reason the story spread internally. Unlike idols who intentionally flirted or maintained intense eye contact, Jin reportedly behaved casually and comfortably with everyone, which somehow made female staff even more nervous. Imagine standing 2 feet away from someone with flawless visuals while he casually asks whether you've eaten dinner yet in a soft voice after a 12-hour filming schedule. That simple warmth apparently hit harder than rehearsed charm, but the real reason Jin quietly became dangerous backstage wasn't only because of his face, it was because of the emotional contrast he created. Staff members described him as someone who could go from loud comedian to unexpectedly gentle in seconds. During exhausting shoots, there were stories about Jin noticing tired stylists sitting silently in corners and suddenly bringing them snacks without making a big scene about it. Other members were caring too, of course, but Jin reportedly had a very old-school, comforting way of treating people that felt unusually sincere inside the stressful K-pop industry. One makeup assistant allegedly revealed that Jin always tried to reduce tension in waiting rooms because he hated seeing staff look anxious around celebrities. And ironically, that kindness made the atmosphere worse for people already secretly nervous around him, because once someone beautiful also becomes emotionally comforting, the psychological effect becomes much stronger. Suddenly, staff weren't just reacting to visuals anymore, they were reacting to presence. What made the mystery around Jin even crazier was how different his energy felt off camera. Fans mostly associated him with confidence and humor, but insiders sometimes described him as surprisingly calm during quiet moments. After intense rehearsals, while other members rested silently or focused on schedules, Jin reportedly often started random conversations with nearby staff simply to keep morale alive. He asked ordinary questions, remembered names, and sometimes even apologized repeatedly when schedules became too difficult for employees working around BTS. In entertainment culture, where hierarchy between celebrities and staff can feel extremely cold, those small gestures became unforgettable. One longtime production assistant supposedly said the most shocking thing about Jin wasn't his appearance. It was how quickly people around him emotionally relaxed. That created a dangerous combination. Because when someone looks almost unreal yet behaves emotionally approachable, people naturally get attached without realizing it. And then came the moments that allegedly caused the strongest reactions backstage. Formal styling days. Whenever BTS attended luxury brand events, award shows, or international appearances wearing tailored suits, whispers about Jin's visuals reportedly exploded again among temporary event staff who weren't used to seeing him in person. Several insiders claimed first-time workers often expected Taehyung or Jungkook to dominate the room visually because of online popularity, but Jin unexpectedly became the member people couldn't stop staring at once he walked past them. Not aggressively, not dramatically, just quietly. His proportions, posture, and natural elegance apparently became overwhelming in real-life lighting conditions. One staff rumor even claimed a female stylist accidentally forgot part of her instructions during a fitting because Jin suddenly smiled while thanking her politely. Whether exaggerated or not, stories like these continued circulating for years for one reason. Too many people described similar reactions independently. Still, perhaps the most fascinating part about Jin's ranking on this list is that he never seemed interested in using that effect intentionally. He rarely leaned into mysterious seduction like some idols naturally do. Instead, he weaponized humor, comfort, and emotional warmth without realizing how powerful that combination became. And that's exactly why Mr. Lee says Jin was secretly one of the most quietly dangerous BTS members among female staff. Not because he tried to attract attention, but because people lowered their guard around him before suddenly realizing they couldn't stop noticing him anymore. Number 6. J-Hope, the smiling heartbreaker. At first glance, almost nobody expected J-Hope to become one of the BTS members most quietly talked about among female staff. Fans usually focused on his energy, his dancing, his loud laughter, and his role as the group's mood maker. He looked approachable, bright, safe, like the member who could instantly make an awkward room feel comfortable again. But according to countless behind-the-scenes whispers that floated through stylists, backup dancers, stage coordinators, and production workers for years, J-Hope apparently had one of the most dangerous personality switches in all of BTS. And the scary part, it often happened without warning. One second he was joking around, dancing randomly in hallways, or imitating staff members to make everyone laugh. Then suddenly during rehearsals, performances, or serious discussions, his entire aura reportedly transformed into something almost intimidatingly attractive. Staff who worked with BTS repeatedly hinted that J-Hope's professionalism created a completely different emotional reaction compared to members known mainly for visuals. Because unlike love at first sight, his charm supposedly grew stronger the longer someone worked around him. That's what made him so dangerous backstage. J-Hope didn't overwhelm people instantly, he slowly pulled them in. Female staff reportedly began noticing tiny habits that made him unusually memorable in stressful work environments. For example, he was known for greeting employees enthusiastically, no matter how exhausted the schedule became. Not the fake celebrity type of greeting either. People described him as genuinely observant. He noticed changes in atmosphere immediately. If the energy backstage felt tense, J-Hope reportedly tried to lift it before cameras even rolled. If staff looked nervous before major international events, he sometimes intentionally acted extra playful to reduce pressure in the room. These details may sound small to fans, but inside the entertainment industry, where many employees work under crushing stress and emotional burnout, that kind of consistent emotional awareness becomes unforgettable very quickly. And according to insiders, many female staff members slowly became attached to that comforting energy without even realizing it. But everything reportedly changed once rehearsal started. Multiple stories from dancers and production teams suggested that J-Hope's duality became shocking in person. The same smiling man who joked casually 5 minutes earlier suddenly turned hyper-focused, sharp-eyed, and completely commanding on stage. One former staff rumor claimed newer female workers often became visibly stunned watching him during practice sessions because his entire posture changed the moment music started. His facial expressions hardened, his movements became precise, his voice turned deeper and more direct while discussing choreography. That transformation apparently created the biggest reactions backstage because it felt so unexpected. Many people underestimated him due to his cheerful image, then suddenly realized why BTS members themselves respected his performance standards so much. One insider even allegedly described the experience as watching two completely different people switch places instantly. And psychologically, that kind of contrast creates powerful attraction because unpredictability keeps people emotionally locked in. There were also rumors that J-Hope's fashion sense made his presence backstage even more unforgettable. Unlike members whose visuals relied mainly on facial features, J-Hope reportedly carried himself with extreme confidence during fittings and styling sessions. Luxury brands eventually recognized this too. Over time, he developed an image that blended street fashion, elegance, and effortless charisma in a way many staff members found surprisingly mature. One former coordinator supposedly admitted that J-Hope looked far more intense in person because he maintained strong eye contact while listening during conversations. Not flirtatious, just fully attentive, and strangely, that made interactions feel more personal than people expected. In industries where celebrities often appear distracted or emotionally distant, someone giving full attention during simple conversations can hit much harder emotionally than dramatic behavior. Still, the reason Mr. Lee places J-Hope at number 6 goes beyond visual, dance skills, or even personality. It's because he reportedly created emotional safety around people while simultaneously carrying hidden intensity underneath. That combination became extremely confusing for staff emotionally. One moment they felt relaxed because of his warmth. The next moment they found themselves unable to ignore how charismatic he looked under stage lighting or during serious rehearsals. And according to backstage whispers, many female staff members didn't even realize when their admiration slowly shifted into fascination, because J-Hope never forced attention toward himself aggressively. Instead, he built connection naturally through consistency, kindness, humor, and professionalism until suddenly people around him started noticing they looked forward to seeing him more than expected. And maybe that's the most dangerous type of charm of all, not the kind that shocks instantly, but the kind that quietly grows stronger every single day until it becomes impossible to ignore. Number 5. RM, the intellectual magnet. For years, many people misunderstood RM completely. Casual viewers often saw him only as the serious leader of BTS, the English speaker, the spokesperson, the calm intellectual standing in front during interviews while the other members created chaos beside him. Compared to members famous for overwhelming visuals or flirtatious energy, RM rarely became the center of heartthrob conversations online. But backstage, according to countless whispers from translators, stylists, interview staff, museum event organizers, and production teams, RM apparently had one of the most quietly addictive personalities in the entire group, not because he tried to charm people intentionally, but because the closer someone worked around him, the more unexpectedly attractive he became. And strangely, it often started with conversations. Unlike idols who relied mainly on visual shock or playful charisma, RM reportedly impressed female staff through the way he made people feel intellectually seen. That sounds simple, but inside entertainment industries where schedules move brutally fast and interactions often feel robotic, someone who genuinely listens becomes extremely memorable. Several insiders hinted that RM had a habit of asking thoughtful follow-up questions during casual backstage conversations instead of giving polite celebrity responses and moving on. Whether speaking with translators, photographers, foreign interviewers, or temporary event staff, he reportedly maintained deep focus during conversations, almost like he wanted to fully understand the person in front of him, and for many female staff members, that level of attention felt unexpectedly intense. One former production worker allegedly said talking to RM felt dangerous because he spoke calmly while maintaining eye contact in a way that made ordinary conversations suddenly feel emotionally personal. But the real reason RM quietly became one of the most talked about members among female staff reportedly came from the contrast between his appearance and personality. Online, fans already knew about his intelligence and poetic mindset, yet people who worked near BTS often described being surprised by how physically imposing RM actually looked in real life. Cameras apparently failed to fully capture his height, broad frame, deep voice, and mature aura during close interactions. Multiple backstage rumors claim newer female employees were often shocked the first time RM walked into rehearsal spaces wearing simple casual clothes because his presence immediately changed the atmosphere of the room. Not flashy, not loud, just powerful in a strangely calm way. One stylist supposedly admitted that RM carried himself more like an actor or university professor than a typical idol, which made his energy feel more mature and emotionally stable compared to what people expected from K-pop celebrities. And then there was his emotional intelligence, the factor many insiders hinted became his most dangerous quality. Throughout BTS's exhausting global schedules, RM reportedly carried enormous pressure as the group's leader, translating during international interviews, managing stressful situations, protecting group morale, and representing BTS publicly created emotional burdens most people never fully saw. Yet despite that pressure, staff members often described him as surprisingly considerate behind the scenes. Stories circulated about RM apologizing personally to workers when schedules ran overtime or when production conditions became difficult. Other rumors claimed he remembered tiny details about recurring staff members months later, including personal preferences or previous conversations. These may sound like small gestures, but in high-pressure industries where employees often feel invisible, that kind of recognition becomes emotionally unforgettable very fast, especially coming from someone with RM's calm, grounded aura. There was also another side of RM that reportedly fascinated female staff even more: his quiet loneliness. Unlike members whose energy dominated rooms naturally, RM sometimes appeared emotionally distant during silent moments backstage. Several insiders described seeing him alone before events, reading books, listening to music, or staring quietly at art pieces during overseas schedules. That introspective atmosphere around him reportedly created massive curiosity among people working nearby. Because the more intelligent and emotionally composed someone appears, the more people naturally wonder what they're hiding internally. One former event coordinator allegedly admitted that many female staff members became drawn toward RM not because he acted charming, but because he felt emotionally complex, like someone carrying thoughts much heavier than what cameras revealed. And psychologically, mystery mixed with intelligence can become incredibly magnetic. But perhaps the biggest reason Mr. Lee places RM at number 5 is because his charm reportedly aged like fine wine over time. Younger staff might initially notice other members first because of visuals or playful energy. Yet according to backstage stories, people who worked around BTS longer often developed deeper admiration for RM gradually. His reliability, his maturity, his emotional awareness, his calm leadership during chaos. Those qualities apparently became more attractive the more someone observed him closely behind the scenes. And without realizing it, many female staff members reportedly found themselves paying attention whenever RM entered a room, not because he demanded attention, but because his presence naturally carried emotional weight. That's what made RM secretly dangerous backstage. He didn't overwhelm people instantly, he slowly entered their minds first, and then stayed there much longer than expected. Number 4. Suga, the cold face with hidden warmth. Among all BTS members, Suga may have created the most misleading first impression backstage. On camera, he often looked distant, quiet, sleepy, brutally honest, and emotionally unreadable. New staff members reportedly assumed he would be the hardest member to approach. Some even expected him to act cold because of his calm expressions and naturally reserved personality. But according to years of quiet stories shared between makeup artists, studio engineers, coordinators, and production crews, the exact opposite slowly happened once people actually worked around him. And that unexpected contradiction became the reason female staff members reportedly found him dangerously attractive over time. Because unlike members who immediately felt warm and expressive, Suga's charm supposedly revealed itself little by little, and once people noticed it, they couldn't unsee it anymore. The first thing insiders often mentioned was his silence. In entertainment environments filled with noise, pressure, fake enthusiasm, and non-stop interaction, Suga reportedly stood out because he never forced energy he didn't genuinely feel. He spoke when necessary, he listened more than he talked, and strangely that calmness created enormous curiosity among people around him. Several backstage rumors claim newer female staff members initially became nervous around Suga because they couldn't easily read his reactions. But after longer schedules, many started realizing he quietly observed everything happening around him. One former production assistant allegedly said Suga noticed details other people missed entirely. Exhausted employees carrying heavy equipment, nervous interns struggling during live events, or stylists silently fixing last-minute problems while everyone else panicked. And according to multiple stories, he often helped in ways cameras never captured. Not dramatically, not publicly, just quietly. That hidden kindness reportedly became one of the biggest reasons female staff members slowly became emotionally attached to him backstage. There were whispers about Suga buying food for exhausted crews during overnight shoots without announcing it publicly. Other stories claimed he sometimes checked whether employees had rested properly during overseas schedules because he personally understood burnout better than most idols. People close to BTS frequently described Suga as someone who disliked fake emotional performances, which ironically made his genuine moments feel much more powerful. One makeup artist rumor even suggested that when Suga thanked staff sincerely after difficult productions, the atmosphere became emotionally overwhelming precisely because those words came from someone usually so reserved. In psychology, unexpected warmth from emotionally guarded people often feels stronger than constant friendliness because it feels earned. And according to insiders, that exact emotional effect surrounded Suga constantly behind the scenes. But perhaps the most dangerous part of Suga's aura reportedly appeared inside recording studios. Fans already knew he transformed completely while producing music, but people working near BTS allegedly experienced that intensity firsthand. Multiple stories from engineers and studio workers hinted that Suga's focus during production sessions became almost hypnotic. The sleepy, quiet idol suddenly turned razor sharp, emotionally intense, and deeply commanding once music discussions started. Staff reportedly noticed how seriously he treated every detail. Lyrics, sound textures, emotional delivery, even silence inside songs. One former studio employee supposedly admitted that watching Suga work changed the way people viewed him permanently because his passion became impossible to ignore, and that transformation created massive emotional contrast. The same man who looked detached backstage suddenly revealed overwhelming depth and emotional sensitivity through music. For many staff members, that hidden intensity reportedly became unforgettable. There was also another layer that made Suga especially fascinating backstage: vulnerability hidden beneath composure. Over the years, BTS openly discussed struggles involving exhaustion, anxiety, pressure, and mental health. And among the members, Suga often carried a reputation for brutal honesty regarding emotional pain and personal fears. Staff members who worked long-term around BTS reportedly sensed that emotional realism strongly in person too. Unlike celebrities who constantly protected polished images, Suga apparently allowed moments of visible exhaustion or quiet reflection to exist naturally backstage. One coordinator allegedly described him as someone who looked emotionally tired yet strangely comforting at the same time, like a person carrying heavy burdens but still choosing kindness whenever possible. That emotional complexity reportedly made many female staff members feel protective toward him without even realizing it. And then came the visual contradiction that shocked people most. Online, Suga was often underestimated visually compared to members with stronger Prince-like or model-style images, but insiders repeatedly hinted that his real-life aura felt much stronger in person, especially during low-energy casual moments. Oversized hoodies, tired eyes after studio sessions, messy hair during rehearsals. Those ordinary looks somehow made him feel more authentic rather than less attractive. One backstage rumor even claimed a female coordinator once said Suga looked dangerously human compared to celebrities who felt overly perfect. And oddly enough, that realism made people emotionally drawn toward him even faster. That's why Mr. Lee places Suga at number 4, because his charm reportedly didn't attack people loudly. It worked silently, slowly, through quiet observations, hidden kindness, emotional honesty, and moments of unexpected warmth that felt far more real than rehearsed celebrity behavior. And before many female staff members realized what was happening, they were already paying attention to him more than anyone else in the room. Number 3, Jimin, the sweet-talking danger. If there was one BTS member repeatedly described by insiders as impossible to escape once you meet him in person, it was probably Jimin. Fans already knew his reputation online. Soft voice, angelic visuals, graceful dancing, flirty stage expressions capable of destroying entire arenas in seconds. But according to stories whispered quietly among stylists, beauty staff, photographers, backup dancers, and event coordinators, none of that fully prepared people for what Jimin apparently felt like in real life. Because unlike members whose charm depended heavily on stage performances, Jimin reportedly carried emotional magnetism constantly, even during ordinary backstage moments when cameras were completely gone. And the most dangerous part? People often underestimated him at first because of how gentle he seemed. Several insiders hinted that Jimin's greatest weapon backstage wasn't actually his appearance, it was attention. More specifically, the way he made people feel emotionally noticed. In entertainment industries where celebrities are constantly rushed between schedules, most interactions become fast, polite, and forgettable. But according to multiple behind-the-scenes stories, Jimin reportedly had a habit of making even short conversations feel unusually warm and personal. He remembered tiny details. He noticed emotional shifts quickly. If staff looked nervous, he reportedly softened his tone immediately. If someone appeared uncomfortable during hectic schedules, he often tried to ease tension naturally without making the situation obvious. One former beauty staff rumor even claimed that Jimin thanked employees with such sincerity and direct eye contact that some newer workers became visibly flustered afterward. And strangely, he wasn't even trying to flirt. That was simply his natural emotional communication style. But everything apparently became far more dangerous once people spent longer periods working around him. Unlike members who maintained consistent energy, Jimin reportedly created emotional whiplash through contrast. One moment he looked soft, shy, and almost delicate while sitting quietly during touch-ups or rehearsals. Then seconds later, during performances, dance practices, or camera rehearsals, his entire aura transformed into something overwhelmingly intense. Multiple staff members over the years allegedly described being shocked by how dramatically Jimin's facial expressions changed once performance mode activated. His eyes sharpened, his body language became seductive and controlled. Even his voice reportedly deepened slightly during serious discussions. One backup dancer rumor suggested that newer female staff sometimes forgot tasks momentarily while watching Jimin rehearse because the transformation felt almost unreal compared to his gentle offstage personality. And psychologically, that duality became incredibly addictive to observe. Another reason Jimin reportedly became so talked about backstage was physical proximity. Unlike members who naturally maintained stronger emotional boundaries, Jimin often communicated with warmth through closeness, soft gestures, and affectionate behavior. BTS members themselves joked for years about Jimin being physically affectionate, and insiders apparently noticed the same atmosphere backstage too. Not inappropriate, not intentional flirting, just natural warmth. A hand briefly touching someone's shoulder while thanking them, leaning closer while listening carefully during noisy rehearsals, smiling softly after noticing staff working overtime late at night. Those tiny interactions reportedly hit much harder emotionally than dramatic celebrity behavior because they felt spontaneous and genuine. One coordinator allegedly admitted that many female staff members initially believed they could stay emotionally professional around Jimin easily, until repeated daily interactions slowly broke their defenses down completely. And then there were the visuals. This was where stories became almost ridiculous. According to countless backstage whispers, cameras supposedly failed to capture Jimin's full real-life effect properly. People expected him to look attractive, of course, but insiders repeatedly described being shocked by how delicate yet dangerously charismatic his features appeared in person. His skin, expressions, posture, and eye contact reportedly created an almost unreal softness up close. One stylist rumor even claimed some female staff members became nervous during wardrobe adjustments because Jimin smelled too good and spoke too gently at the same time, creating what she jokingly described as emotional collapse conditions. Exaggerated? Maybe. But similar stories continued appearing for years around different productions, which made the reputation grow even stronger internally. Still, perhaps the most powerful reason Jimin ranked this high on Mr. Lee's list came from emotional after effects. Many celebrities impress people instantly, then fade from memory once schedules end, but according to insiders, Jimin reportedly lingered in people's minds much longer afterward. Why? Because his energy felt emotionally comforting while simultaneously emotionally dangerous. He gave warmth without arrogance, attention without pressure, intensity without coldness. And according to one longtime production rumor, that combination became especially hard for female staff to forget because it felt unusually human inside an industry full of emotional distance and image management. That's why Jimin became one of the most secretly fought over BTS members backstage. Not because he acted like a heartthrob intentionally, but because his natural emotional warmth slowly made people feel special before they even realized how attached they'd become. Number 2, V, the face that destroyed professionalism. Long before backstage rumors started spreading among staff members, fans already knew V had visuals that felt almost unreal. Even outside the K-pop world, celebrities, fashion insiders, photographers, and luxury brands repeatedly described him as someone with one of the most naturally striking faces in entertainment. But according to countless whispers from female staff members who worked around BTS over the years, the internet still failed to explain the true danger pleasure of seeing V in person, because apparently photos weren't the problem, videos weren't the problem, the real issue was presence. The moment he walked into a room physically, people reportedly understood why so many professionals lost composure around him despite years of experience working with celebrities. And strangely, the effect became even stronger when V wasn't trying at all. One of the most repeated backstage claims about V involved silence. Unlike members who filled rooms with jokes or constant interaction, V reportedly had an unpredictable emotional atmosphere that immediately pulled attention toward him naturally. Sometimes he was playful and loud. Other times he became deeply quiet, almost emotionally unreadable while staring into space between schedules. That unpredictability reportedly created enormous curiosity among female staff because nobody could fully predict which version of V they would encounter each day. One former event coordinator allegedly described his aura as dangerously cinematic, explaining that even ordinary movements, adjusting rings, fixing sleeves, walking silently through backstage corridors, somehow looked dramatic in real life. And because V often appeared emotionally detached during quiet moments, staff members reportedly became even more hyper-aware whenever he suddenly smiled or spoke warmly. But according to insiders, the biggest shock usually happened during direct eye contact. Multiple backstage stories over the years suggested that V had a habit of looking directly at people while listening, almost too intensely, which made simple conversations feel unexpectedly personal. Female stylists allegedly joked among themselves about avoiding prolonged eye contact because it made them lose focus during fittings or makeup sessions. One rumor even claimed a new assistant accidentally dropped styling equipment after V unexpectedly thanked her softly while making direct eye contact during preparations for an overseas event. Whether exaggerated or not, stories like these kept circulating because too many workers described similar reactions independently. The combination of his deep voice, calm expressions, and intense gaze reportedly created emotional pressure that caught people completely off guard. And then came the visuals under real lighting conditions, the factor many insiders claimed cameras could never capture properly. Several staff rumors suggested V's facial proportions looked almost unreal up close because his features changed dramatically depending on lighting, angle, and expression. Sometimes soft and innocent, sometimes cold and aristocratic, sometimes dangerously seductive without effort. One luxury fashion staff member allegedly admitted that many professionals expected his visuals to feel overhyped due to online attention, only to become stunned once seeing him walk into private fitting sessions in person. Broad shoulders, sharp facial structure, naturally elegant posture, and that deep voice together reportedly created an overwhelming first impression difficult to recover from emotionally. And ironically, V himself often seemed completely unaware of how strongly people reacted around him backstage. But Mr. Lee says V's true danger went far beyond appearance. It came from emotional contradiction. Because despite carrying intimidating visuals, V reportedly showed surprisingly childlike warmth during random backstage moments. Staff stories frequently described him greeting employees suddenly with unusual excitement, humming songs during waiting periods, or speaking softly to nervous workers who looked overwhelmed by large productions. That emotional unpredictability became incredibly powerful psychologically. One moment, female staff felt intimidated by his cold model-like aura. The next moment, he smiled boxily, acted playful, or spoke gently enough to destroy the emotional distance completely. And according to insiders, those sudden switches made him almost impossible to emotionally prepare for. There was also another detail that quietly intensified his reputation backstage: loneliness. Over the years, fans often noticed a strangely melancholic atmosphere surrounding V during certain eras of BTS's career. Staff members apparently sensed that too. Several insiders described him as someone who sometimes looked emotionally distant even while surrounded by people, quietly staring out windows during flights, sitting silently before performances listening to music, wandering art galleries overseas with unusual emotional focus. That mysterious emotional depth reportedly fascinated many female staff members because it made him feel less like an untouchable celebrity and more like someone emotionally complicated beneath the visuals. And in many cases, mystery creates stronger attraction than openness ever could. Still, the craziest part about V ranking at number 2 is that many insiders claimed he rarely needed to do anything specific to become the center of attention. He didn't force charm aggressively, he didn't constantly flirt. In fact, some staff reportedly became even more curious precisely because he sometimes seemed emotionally unreachable. And once curiosity mixes with overwhelming visuals, deep voice, unpredictability, hidden warmth, and emotional mystery, professionalism reportedly became much harder to maintain backstage than anyone expected, which leaves only one final member remaining. The member Mr. Lee claims female staff talked about most quietly behind closed doors, the one whose effect allegedly became so dangerous that some insiders jokingly warned newcomers about him before schedules even began. And honestly, after everything revealed so far, the number one spot might shock you most of all. Number 1, Jungkook, the staff killer nobody could resist. Among all the members of Jungkook, there was one name that reportedly appeared over and over again whenever backstage conversations became a little too honest. Not publicly, not in interviews, not on camera, but quietly between exhausted stylists after schedules ended, makeup artists fixing equipment late at night, coordinators whispering during overseas tours, and production staff trying to act professional while secretly losing composure. According to years of insider rumors and backstage stories, Jungkook allegedly became the BTS member most female staff members warned each other about emotionally. And the scary part? It wasn't because he acted like a celebrity heartthrob. It was because he somehow combined every dangerous quality into one person naturally without trying. Visuals, talent, physical presence, emotional warmth, quiet masculinity, focus, vulnerability. And over time, that combination reportedly became almost impossible for people around him to ignore. The first thing insiders constantly mentioned about Jungkook was how different he felt in real life compared to online content. Fans already knew him as the Golden Maknae, the all-rounder who excelled at singing, dancing, sports, performances, and basically everything he touched. But backstage workers allegedly described something much more overwhelming: presence. Multiple staff rumors claimed Jungkook carried an unusually strong physical aura even during ordinary situations, walking into rehearsal rooms wearing oversized hoodies, sitting silently while getting makeup done, stretching casually before performances. Somehow, simple moments reportedly drew attention toward him automatically. One former event worker allegedly said the most dangerous thing about Jungkook was that people noticed him even when he clearly wanted to stay unnoticed. And according to insiders, that effortless magnetism became stronger as he matured over the years. But what truly made Jungkook terrifying backstage reportedly wasn't only his appearance. It was the emotional contradiction surrounding him constantly. Female staff often expected him to act extremely confident because of his global fame and overwhelming popularity. Instead, many insiders described him as surprisingly shy during ordinary interactions, especially around unfamiliar people. He reportedly bowed politely, spoke softly to staff, apologized often, and sometimes looked awkward receiving compliments despite being one of the most famous idols on earth. That contrast reportedly destroyed people emotionally, because once someone carries intimidating visuals yet behaves humbly and slightly shy at the same time, the protective instinct around them grows extremely fast. One stylist rumor even claimed newer female workers initially prepared themselves mentally to stay professional around Jungkook, only to become completely disarmed after seeing how quietly respectful he behaved backstage. And then came the rehearsals. According to dancers, production teams, and longtime staff whispers, Jungkook's transformation during performances became one of the most shocking things people experienced around BTS. The quiet, soft-spoken young man suddenly turned intensely charismatic once cameras rolled or music started playing. His eyes sharpened, his movements became dangerously precise, his voice reportedly deepened naturally while discussing stage details or choreography corrections. Multiple insiders allegedly described rehearsal Jungkook as emotionally unfair because the switch happened instantly. One backup dancer rumor even suggested female staff often became quieter while watching him practice because his focus looked almost hypnotic in person. And unlike idols who visibly tried to appear seductive, Jungkook reportedly became most attractive precisely when fully concentrated on work without realizing anyone was watching him. There was also another detail that made Jungkook's reputation explode backstage over time: physical growth. Fans watched him evolve from BTS's shy teenage Maknae into an adult global superstar, but staff members apparently experienced that transformation much more dramatically up close. Over the years, insiders repeatedly mentioned how his deeper voice, tattoos, physique, posture, and calmer personality changed the emotional atmosphere around him entirely. Several female staff rumors suggested people who once viewed Jungkook as cute suddenly became shocked during later eras when his mature masculine energy became impossible to ignore. One coordinator allegedly admitted that seeing Jungkook casually wearing black clothes during late-night schedules created more chaos among staff than expensive stage outfits ever did. Why? Because his attractiveness reportedly felt most dangerous when natural and unfiltered rather than styled for performances. But perhaps the biggest reason Mr. Lee places Jungkook at number 1 is because of how emotionally balanced his charm appeared backstage. Unlike members whose appeal leaned heavily toward mystery, humor, intellect, or emotional softness, Jungkook somehow carried pieces of all those qualities simultaneously. He could look intimidating yet shy, masculine yet gentle, quiet yet emotionally attentive, competitive yet humble. Staff whispers often suggested that spending long periods around Jungkook became emotionally confusing because different sides of his personality kept appearing unexpectedly. One moment he looked serious and focused during rehearsals. The next moment he laughed loudly at something childish with staff nearby. Then suddenly he became deeply polite again while thanking exhausted employees after events ended. That emotional unpredictability reportedly made attachment happen extremely fast around him, and according to one longtime insider rumor, there was a phrase some female staff jokingly used whenever newcomers joined BTS schedules: "Don't look at Jungkook too long." Not because he behaved inappropriately, not because he flirted recklessly, but because once people spent enough time around him, professionalism allegedly became much harder than expected. That's why Mr. Lee says Jungkook quietly became the member most secretly fought over among female staff behind closed doors. Not through arrogance, not through intentional seduction, but through natural magnetism that combined youth, talent, humility, masculinity, warmth, and mystery into one dangerously unforgettable presence.